Raphael Olympio, it's a pleasure to chat to you today. How's it going?
All good, all good. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
A Togo Togo man.
Yeah, that's it.
You're part of a collective, or you're interacting in an event with a collective this Saturday. Part of the Everyman series of events at Elizabeth Fort. What is it you're going to be doing? It's Olympio. Is it versus or ex Outsider Collective, or what?
It's Olympia with the Outsiders End Collective.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what will you be doing?
So there's three of us, and we'll be performing some hip hop, some spoken word, and there's another artist who's very like alternative. So he'll be kind of delving into like a punk rock vibe. So a mixture of those three genres, I guess: hip hop, spoken word, and punk rock.
Right. So Kestine, is that correct?
Keston, yeah.
Keston and Outsider YP, who I've some familiarity with. So
yeah.
Are you doing the hip hop? Who's the spoken word, and who's the kind of punk rock kind of mad mix?
So I'm doing a mixture of spoken word and hip hop rap. And Keston, I believe, is going to be performing a lot of songs from his recent album, which is hip hop. And Outsider YP is the one who's going to give you the crazy mix of the punk and the kind of punk rock / hip hop. So it's a mixture.
Cool. Well, hopefully in this chat and in that description, we'll encourage people to, you're able to go to a thing in a place with other people and enjoy an experience, and a form of entertainment and a creative outpouring of ideas and sounds and songs. And apparently you go along physically, like in real life, you're actually there and you experience and you react to it.
Yeah.
And apparently this is what used to happen in the world. So hopefully we'll encourage people to go. It's $16. It's this Saturday at Elizabeth Fort. 7:30 p.m. is the event, presented by the Everyman, and it's Olympio and the Outsider Collective, featuring Kestine and Outsider YP, as we've mentioned. And it sounds interesting, as your story does too, Raphael, which is what I'd hope to delve into a little bit deeper. So at 7, you came from Togo to Clonakilty.
Yeah.
Do you remember that experience of that like transition?
It's very vague. I just remember there was a civil war happening in Togo. There was a lot going on, and my parents had to flee, and everything just happened really quickly. I just remember being in a very hot climate, and all of a sudden,
not
freezing cold. And like, we don't like in Togo, nobody really wears jackets. Like, it's never that cold. Even when during the rain season or anything, it doesn't get that cold. So the first thing we had to do was find jackets, and the climate, like, it shook me. It was a shock to my system. And then we're traveling a lot with buses. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know what was happening, but then we ended up in a direct provision center. So I think we were in the north of Ireland, traveling by bus when we first came into the country, stopped in Dublin, had meetings with a bunch of people. It was very official. I didn't know what was going on. Ended up in Clonakilty anyway. We're in direct vision there for almost 2 years. I went to school there. That's where I was introduced to, I guess, the Irish culture. I barely spoke English at the time. So it was a struggle.
What was your home language in Togo?
So we speak French, or Ewe, which is the kind of the culture associated with my parents, is their tribe. So they're from the Ewe tribe, and that's the language we spoke in conjunction with French. So that's what we spoke, and we spoke a little bit of English. My mom came from a very educated background, so she was a guest. She spoke English very well, so she got us through a lot of it. But yeah, I guess once we were in Clon and started school, we were forced to integrate and forced to learn language, and got there eventually. So yeah.
So I'm not sure what anybody watching this geography is like. Hopefully they're at least vaguely aware of where, let's say, somewhere like Nigeria is. I'm just trying to go very general, first of all. So we're going Africa, we're going West Africa. So the bit where it goes around and then down, and in there's a whole bunch of countries. Togo is one of those narrow countries. I think Benin is next to it, and Ghana.
Yeah.
Is that your neighboring countries?
Yeah.
At least in terms of being here in Ireland right now, relatively speaking, Nigeria is not too far away, and I'm guessing that's for some people the most familiar country in that part of the world. But there's also like the Cote d'Ivoire and Sierra Leone and Mali are further over to the kind of to the left.
Yeah.
Lomé is the capital.
There's
about 8 million people, so it's a similar sort of population to Ireland, relatively speaking. Were you guys in Lomé, or what part of, or do you have much memories really of that?
Yeah. Well, my mom talks to me about it, and we were in Lomé. I was born in the capital. That's what I see on my birth cert anyway. And I guess we came from a good family. We're from the Olympios, and the first president of Togo was actually To Raphael Olympio. So he's my great grandfather, and he fought for our independence, and that's why Togo had their independence today. We're colonized by the Germans and then the French, and then in I can't remember the exact year, but in 1960s, Togo got their independence, and my great grandfather was the first president of Togo at that time, and he got assassinated quite quickly in his reign, because he was trying to do a lot of good for the young people, trying to educate them. The Civil War really kind of brought a lot of tension and lack of education in the country, and everything was up in the air, I guess. And he wanted to kind of bring structure back into the country, and for that reason alone, he got assassinated. So, yeah.
Was it sort of like power struggles between different tribal groupings, or just the people fighting out to have the influence that they wanted to have in the country, as opposed to necessarily being different tribal kind of groupings?
Yeah, I think it was more necessary the influence of power, and like what the country wanted, not necessarily what the country wanted, but what other people high up wanted. The person that assassinated him was actually the general of the army, and so it was kind of like a law almost, where if you assassinate the president, you're kind of in charge. You take control of the country then. And unfortunately, the general that assassinated my great grandfather, is his son actually reigns today.
So it's not a safe place for you and your family to go back to then?
Oh, no.
And are there many of your family members back in Togo? Or did everybody have to get out?
A lot of them left. Most of them, probably 90% are out. I have 2 cousins over there, and my grandmother's there, my grandfather's in Ghana. So a lot of my family actually migrated to Ghana or neighboring countries, and a lot of them are in like French-speaking countries all around the world: Canada, France, Switzerland. So
is it a tightly controlled country by the kind of ruling grouping? Or is there still a level of unrest there, or?
Still a level of unrest. The young people now are actually fighting for the country more than ever. I think that they've progressed a lot in education, and they're starting to understand how the government works, and they're really like, once there's like laws, they're looking for laws to be changed, similarly to what's happening in Ireland. Like the young people are really like, they're signing petitions, they're voting, but the problem is there's so much, the president is so corrupt, there's so much corruption. Like he can turn off the electricity in the whole country, and turn off, like that's how much power he has. Like when it comes to voting, everybody's electricity is gone. He's in charge of this media, so there's a lot of manipulation, and like he's been reigning for years, since the 60s, and people want that family out, but there's just no way of getting them out. Usually a president is in max like 8 years, we'll say, but in Togo, they don't care. They do their own thing. So yeah.
Oh, that's a crazy history. So you've not been back?
I have actually. I've been back
good.
for a holiday. Went in for a holiday. We were very kind of discreet, so nobody actually knew who we were, you know, and
because it'd be dangerous.
yeah, yeah, it's quite dangerous, especially if you're loud and proud. So you kind of have to go in there, kind of humble yourself and be like, you're here for a holiday. We visited my grandparents. I spoke to my grandmother for the first time. There was a bit of language barrier,
Wow.
but we tried our best, and it really kind of, going back really kind of changed my mindset on life, because I had this mindset of what Africa is based on media, I guess, and what the media would portray and what people would say. And then when I went back, I was like, wow, this is a beautiful place. It looks like the Bahamas. Like if anybody wants to go on holidays in Africa, anywhere, I would say go to Togo. The people there are amazing. The beaches are unbelievable. There's water parks there. It's like the Bahamas. If you don't want to go to a Caribbean country or the Bahamas itself, go to Togo. Like it's
golden beaches, beautiful sea, palm trees,
beautiful.
Lovely warm weather.
Unbelievable.
Tropical country. So when you say there's unrest, there's an undercurrent of political unrest in terms of wanting and desiring change within the structures of the country. But the country itself is safe to visit. Yeah,
it is 100%. The country itself is very safe. The people are amazing. The food is amazing. It's a good vibe.
And what's the kind of like, and is it, I mean, you'd imagine if the country's that tightly controlled by one particular family or one particular power group, that they kind of they'll keep a lot of the money for themselves. But is the country doing okay?
You
know, it like what's it sort of? Is it? You know, is it an industrial country or is it agricultural or what? You know, what's the kind of?
Yeah, agricultural. There's a lot of the coast. It's on the coast, so there's a lot of fishing. There's a lot of water parks. There's a lot of, I feel like it's like a food hub. Like even you're in Togo and the main dish would be like fried fish with rice or stew or whatever. But there's so many other dishes. Like there's Chinese people over there. They're doing their thing. People are starting to speak Mandarin in Togo.
Wow.
The roads, the infrastructure is starting to build up. It's really getting better. But the main thing I feel like is agriculture, and the food business is amazing there as well. So yeah.
Yes, and there's like markets and amazing markets and full of color and life and activity. And Lome, like, I mean, so I know China is increasing its footprint really all over Africa. But and so perhaps Lome's benefiting from that, and probably often you're I don't know, is it fair to describe your man, the ruler dude, as a dictator? Presumably it's certainly in that territory, and perhaps the Chinese are fine with helping support someone like that. But like Lome, like, are we talking, is there big buildings? Are we talking like, you know, there's wealth there, presumably?
There's wealth there, and it's just unfortunate because in the past, Lome is meant to be like the Paris of West Africa. But because of the corruption of the government, it just hasn't reached there. And nobody knows about Togo because of the corruption. Like when I first came to Ireland, everybody's like, Togo, where's that? I've heard of Ghana, I've heard Nigeria, they've heard of literally every country in West Africa. So that was a bit of a struggle. But Togo, honestly, is just an amazing country. That's all I can say.
Cool. It's you've marked it down for me. Thank you for that, Raphael. But what age were you at that time going back? Because it must like, and also like, what an experience for your parents. Like, it must be a scarring experience. I wonder, do they avoid talking about it much, or was it very important from day one to keep Togo very much alive?
My mom kept Togo very much alive in the household. She was very proud. Both my parents were very proud of where they came from. So she kept it alive. She kept the culture within the household, like the food, the music. She made sure we knew where we came from. But she also wanted to push us and integrate within the community and be like, you're Irish now. Like, enjoy being Irish. Go play hurling. She'd also learn how to make like Irish stew and various other dishes, just so we became accustomed to the culture here and felt at home. So she really pushed for that. So I believe like that I'm as much Togolese as I am Irish. Within Togo itself, when we went back, I was 21. I think it was about 6, 7 years ago.
So like it was a culture shock, presumably.
Was. It was.
Like, where do I fit in here? How do I belong? But coming back, did you what was the experience like? I guess you've kind of already answered that.
Yeah.
That it helped you to, I suppose, see Africa in a very different way from what you'd heard and read about, and presumably almost your own preconceptions and maybe, I don't know if prejudice is the right word, but like knowing that your family had to leave because of unrest and stuff is going to give you certain ideas about a place, and so a lot changed for you going over, and presumably you'd like to get back again.
Yeah, definitely. Like when we went back, I was just blown away by just the views, the sight of the country, the way everything was. Because I just had this misconception that I'll be going into a village or something, or you'd see like what they portray on the media, like Africa doesn't really, the infrastructure isn't great. You're gonna end up in a village, or the houses are gonna be like small or whatever. But it was the total opposite. Like the houses there were beautiful. I went to my uncle's house, and it was like a mansion. It was bigger than any house I've lived in Ireland. And even my mom there was a bit of shock there for her as well, because she's been out of the country for years, and she couldn't believe how much Togo has progressed. And she was in denial. She like didn't want to accept it whilst we're over there. She was like, no way is this Togo. So that was a shock to her. She was in tears going back, and she was in tears coming back home to Ireland. So it was just a shock for not only myself and my younger siblings, but my mom. And she's at a stage where she doesn't know, does she want to stay in Ireland? Does she want to go back to Togo? Because she loves both equally, and she's just stuck. She's in like limbo about deciding what her future is. But yeah, as for me, I feel like I'm more, I know I said I'm as much Togolese as I am Irish, but I've grown up here so long that I feel like everything is here for me. And I'm all my mates, my partner, my music career, the job opportunities are all here for me more so than in Togo. And Togo is going to be a place where I'll always go back to for like a holiday or to visit family members. But I feel like Cork is home for me.
The direct provision, has a bad reputation. Let's face it. I don't think most people are happy with how that system was set up in the first place and left run for so long. And I believe, maybe I should have checked it out before I started chatting, but I believe it's a system that's been they're going to end the system of direct provision. But yeah. I mean, I heard stuff like, you've people from all over the world and no one's allowed to cook their own food. And I mean, food is central to people's culture. You're really taking something away. Now, maybe it's very hard to provide for that or facilitate for that, but I don't know. Do you recall, like, were you guys long in that system? Does your mum?
We were just under 2 years, I believe. It was difficult because we went from obviously eating food in Togo to going to the provision center. And first of all, we were all in one room. We were all in one room, my mom, my dad, myself, and my 2 younger brothers at the time. It was like a hotel room, and we're all packed into one room. So there was no privacy for us, the kids, and there was no privacy for my parents. That was like probably one of the worst struggles. And then I remember the first few weeks when we're eating, like food was prepared for us. We were delighted. We're like, okay, food's being prepared for us, but we just didn't like the food. And it was very hard because my dad, first of all, was a chef back in Togo. And my mom also loved cooking. And for Togolese women, like cooking is their heart and soul. It's like their everything. And once you strip that away from the women, it was too much. My mom felt defeated, lack of control. And like, we just didn't like the food as kids, and the kids are just very picky in general. So to have a new dish in front of you that you've never ate before and you just do not like. I've never had salmon before I came to Ireland, and I just don't like salmon because of, because of my experience in the Direct Provision Center. We had loads of salmon and we just didn't like it. There was the Irish stew, we didn't like it. There was so much and we just couldn't eat, and I was losing weight. Food, and then it got to a stage where I was just eating cereal and chips for
like a lot of other Irish kids.
Yeah, literally. And yeah, it just got difficult, and we're lucky in some cases where we had friends we found in the community. West Cork was a beautiful place. The people there are so, like, they were amazing. And there was one woman in particular, she was so nice. She'd invite us over and she'd let my parents cook or something, or, you know, she'd say, what would you like to eat? And she helped us out a lot. Like, she'd come and she brought me and my brothers like toys and coloring books and colors and stuff. And even when we left the Direct Provision Center, she drove from West Cork and came to Wilton and still met up with us and still kept our relationship with my parents going. And that was the beautiful thing whilst we were in Direct Provision. But apart from that, it was just a difficult time. My parents didn't know what their future would hold. Everything was stagnant, and you enter the country, you get told you're going to be in the system for 6 months, and you're there for almost 2 years, and then you have friends in there who are there for longer again. Like, I have friends in there currently, not in the same Direct Provision, not when we first came, but I have friends now, and they've been in the system for 5, 6, 7, almost 10 years. And they're growing up and they don't know what's happening. Like, their mental health is deteriorating, and it's just sad to see. Some of them have had aspirations to become medical doctors, engineers, and they've just given up. They don't know if that's possible because they're stuck in the system. And it's just sad to see. And I think I was a kid, so I was lucky enough not to really feel the impact of being in Direct Provision. I guess, like, I couldn't invite friends over because it's like a hotel kind of room, and it's just awkward inviting friends over because your parents are in the room as well. There's no space to bring your friends over. There's no, even to go to, we tried like soccer training and stuff, but my parents couldn't afford to get me soccer boots or the jersey or even to get the membership at all. They were like, we're getting about, I don't know, back then it was like, I don't know, £18 or something. We can't give you that to get boots. You know, it was just a very difficult time. And I remember I was wearing like passed over clothes. Like, I was wearing some of my dad's clothes. Like, it was that bad. And all my clothes were baggy and stuff. But I'm lucky enough to have gone through it as a kid and not be in there for so long. But I've seen the impacts on my parents and people around. Even it still affects my mom up until today, where my mom just doesn't want to talk about the system at all. Like, you can't mention it. I advocate for it a lot, whereas I speak against it a lot because I feel like I should. I've been there and I see my friends in there, so I'm advocating against it a lot. But once my mom is like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about it. It's in the past, you know? So
you can kind of understand why she just sort of want to freeze out that was a difficult, tough time, and I'd rather not have to live through it again. But kudos to you for advocating, I suppose, against the system as it's constructed, based on how you experienced it and on your knowledge of how many others have experienced it and continue to experience it in that way. And like, I suppose, you know what, maybe the fact that you're young is actually, you know, you've an adaptability that's very useful. But, like, you know, it still must have been a very kind of confusing time. So it's a nice story that the woman you spoke of, who was good to your family and who kept in touch, and obviously, you know, had a lot of love and a lot of openness, you know, which are pretty good qualities for humans to have.
yeah.
But what were the things that maybe made, you know, what kind of, like, I suppose you were talking about playing football and playing hurling and stuff like that. Like, was there a time where you kind of felt like, I feel comfortable now, or I have a sense of myself, or you know, I've got a grounding,
Yeah.
even both for yourself and as a family?
Yeah. Whew. I guess for myself was when we got out of the system and we went to, we moved to Wilton and I went to Togo Boys National School. I think that's when things kind of got better for me, when I made friends. And I think friends that I'm still in contact with today, like lifelong friends. And those friends were stuck by me through thick and thin. I lived in around Sarsfields Road in Ellenvale, and my neighbor was my best friend, and he's still my best friend today. So those friendships that I built in Togher, I think is what kind of made me feel more at home, more at ease. Because my friends never judged me. They never looked at the color of my skin. They just knew me as, this is Raphael, this is our friend. They'd knock for me.
What do they call you, Raf or Raffer?
Rafa.
all right, Raf boy, coming out.
Yeah, literally. And I was really good at soccer, so they enjoyed that. And I tried with all other sports. I was really active in the community. I was part of a youth club, and I felt that's the friendships is what kind of made me feel at home. While we were in Clonakilty, I didn't really have those friends like that. Everything was up in the air.
Well, things are all so uncertain, and you're all living in a room, and you don't know what the future is, and like it's all anybody needs is a little bit of clarity.
Yeah.
To get a sense of, all right, here we are. This is it. Okay, from here we move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And for my parents, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I can't answer that on their behalf. I don't know. But for me, it's definitely the friendships, and I guess just growing up in the education system, where started primary school there, went into secondary school and college. I feel like some people come at a difficult age, maybe at 16, 17, and they start off in secondary school, and it's very awkward. It's a very awkward stage to make friends again, because people have made friends since they were 6 and they're still friends with that group, and it's hard to kind of join a new kind of group.
And you're feeling awkward anyway. I mean, teenage years are difficult for everybody, but and you've got all of that added stuff going to mix. Were you the eldest of your family?
I'm the eldest of 5.
So arguably, again, that sense of, you know, adaptability that younger people have and more malleable is probably was probably useful for your younger brothers and sisters as well, if you have sisters. So that's nice. You're in Togher and you're making mates and you're playing sports and you're moving on with things. Yeah. Do you know, I knew there was something like with your parents. I mean, yeah, like parents, I suppose, will do anything to sacrifice for their kids, won't they? You know, it's like, you know, it's not that we don't matter, but like we want to set it up as well as we can for these little people. The beauty of that and the circle of life stuff is you'll get your time to pay it back for the folks, you know. So yeah, wow. I mean, Jesus, like it's just I can't even really conceive of experiences that are as difficult as that, and yet also difficult experiences are also opportunities. And here you are. I mean, I think we prior to hitting record on this chat, we were talking about you. Are you finished in UCC, or you're in UCC studying to be an occupational therapist?
Yeah. So I'm still currently studying. I'm going into my 3rd year. So getting into UCC was actually difficult. Was quite difficult for me because of how we got into the country, and being in direct provision. There's a lot of, you're not an Irish citizen, and it takes a while to become an Irish citizen. And we had quite a lot of difficulties with our status in the country. So because of my status, I actually couldn't get into 3rd level education for years. So I finished my Leaving Cert in 2012, and I couldn't progress because my status they wouldn't allow it unless I paid like international student fees, which was beyond anything I could have.
50s and 20s, 30,000s and all of that, yeah.
So I started going to college to a PLC because I didn't want to give up. I wanted to really progress. So I did pre-nursing in a PLC. I did level 5, level 6, and then I still couldn't get in. And then I just started working and volunteering as much as possible. And then I went back again to do another year in a PLC course. And then I think the law changed for people with the current status the prior status that I was on. And I got in the year 2018. So it took about 6 years of just not giving up. And I got in as a mature student. And you know what? Sometimes I was bitter and I was hopeless and I was angry because I really wanted to be a nurse, first of all. And then there was one time an occupational therapist came in for a talk in College of Com and talked about what occupational therapy actually is. And I was like, you know what, this is more my cup of tea. This is more of me. And that's what I applied for in my CEO as a mature student. And I've never looked back, and I'm grateful. Despite the struggles and challenges, I found a course and a job, a career that I feel suits me to the ground, and I'm delighted. Going into my third year now, and after that I have a year left.
So you've been like in college all through this COVID time, because I really feel sorry for people who, there's people who have done a half a term, and I don't know, the college, like I remember my college experience, and like, I don't know, being on campus and mixing with people, like you've missed all of that, have you?
Yeah, I've missed a lot of that. Yeah, I think.
And is this the final year?
No, I'm going into. I have 2 more years after this.
So fingers crossed it'll be a bit of like normal college life.
I really hope so, because it's been quite awkward online. I learn way more whilst I'm in the class, so it's been difficult. There's times I felt like.
Well, I mean, occupational therapy is hands-on as well. So I mean, I don't know, how does that work?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's maybe more detail than we need to go into. I wish you luck with that, but
thank you.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just it's an amazing story to conceive of all of those twists and turns and all of those things. What music? I mean, we started talking about the event at the weekend, so let's maybe as a way of concluding this chat, and thank you for your time and for your honesty and for your sharing. I've really appreciated it. I mean, there are, there's so many Irish people with stories like yours that it'd be interesting to hear more of them. And oh, actually, wait, before we maybe wrap up by finishing with the music, you talked about status and stuff, so I presume somewhere along the way you got made an Irish citizen.
Yeah, I got it in.
So how was that experience? I presume that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So I got it in last year.
And again, you didn't get to go and do the physical thing. Was this online as well?
No, I was lucky enough. We were the last people to do the physical ceremony. So I was out in Killarney.
It's kind of emotional, is it?
Oh, it was a difficult one for me because I was waiting 20 years.
So it's like finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. And I got it, and I was just like, yeah, it was just finally. And
almost with a little bit of anger, as in like, why did it have to take me 20 effing years?
Yeah. I was upset. I was kind of numb receiving it. I wasn't as I thought.
So it was almost too much to kind of process in the moment.
Yeah. I almost didn't believe it was happening. I was going through the motions, and I sat there in ceremony, and I was like, okay, I'm an Irish citizen now. But I felt like, despite my prior status, I felt like I
already was an Irish citizen.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just having the passport, and I was like, okay, it just felt like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, I can understand the mixed feelings with that. I was kind of almost imagining like a beautiful story of, and the anthem gets played and, tear of the eye. But actually, you're kind of like maybe feeling there's a bit of BS around this. I mean, like I've been an Irish citizen. I've been here since I've 7. I've done all of the things that anybody in Ireland has done. Why did it take me so long to finally have someone go, you know what, now we'll allow you or something? And that's probably a whole other conversation as to why that was the case and what the intricacies and ins and outs of all of that were.
Mm-hmm.
So let's tie that into and finish then chatting with the music. And again, thank you for your time. So I guess music and the spoken word allows you to express some of those things.
Yeah. So back when I was in the Direct Provision Centre, I was learning English. For school, we'd have to write stories, and that's where I guess the music began for me. I used to write stories, trying to improve my English, but I'd write stories about how my day went. And then I'd write stories about how I'd like my day to go. So I'd rewrite the same story, but like a better version where, okay, I'm no longer in direct provision. Me and my family have our own house. And then it kind of, from there I began, and then it's kind of translated into poetry. I started writing poetry. And then I started watching, when we moved, I started watching TV, and I saw people that looked like me on TV, the rappers, singers, R&B singers, sporting athletes. And I felt like they were my role models at the time. So I started mimicking the rappers, and I did that in my private time. Nobody knew about it, not even my mom. She didn't like it when she found out.
My son is not going to be a rapper.
Literally. she like that. She was totally against it. But it was self-therapeutic for me. I started writing about, because I found it hard to express myself. I felt like a negative impact of being in direct provision was it had a knock-on effect on my confidence, and I had a bit of social anxiety. So I was very isolated, and I just write, and that's the only way I could express myself. And from there, I guess I just started mingling with the right friends and went to youth groups, and they saw that I was into music, and that's how my kind of music career kind of progressed and launched. It was almost by accident. And that's what, like, if people are coming up on the 14th, you're gonna hear stories about myself and my emotions, and I'm gonna do spoken word, and it's gonna be about me, the life that I've lived, what has happened in the community, and that's how I like to express myself best. So
nice one. Raphael Olympio, thank you so much for your time. And thank you to Roisin Burke. I took some of the info I had on you before we began this from a piece she wrote in the Echo with the title Living Leaside from Togo to Togher. Although I feel like it's kind of more Wilton in there now.
Yeah. Well, Togher is where
doesn't work as well in the headline.
Togher is where I'm from. We lived in Wilton, but it's mainly Togher. Yeah.
Okay, I was a pure Celtic man, so yeah, I'm all about the Togher, pride of Togher.
That's it.
Yeah, living east side from Togo to Togher. Raphael says he found his rhythm in poetry in Cork. And listen, I mean, this is a land where language and words and expressing yourself through them, there's a rich and long history of it. And I'm grateful that we have you to continue that legacy. Much success to you, and thank you so much for the chats.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again.